Hey, welcome back to our fridge tests. So we're going to be running test 2 and test 3 today.
Yeah.
Okay, so test 2 is the cycling test and test 3 is the 12-hour test. We'll get into more of that and describe what we're going to be doing in each. But these are going to be shorter videos. If you want to see how we're running the tests and what we did as setting up and making sure that we've got kind of a basis for all of them to start off with.
Field,
yeah, a level playing field. Check in the description. The first one we did last week is in there. You can go and watch that episode and see how we put everything to try and level out the playing field, as you said. Right, so let's get into it. Cycling test. So what are we doing?
Well, we're trying to see how long the fridge takes to get to temperature and then shut off the compressor.
Okay. Why do we want to check this?
Well, I mean, the whole point of the shut off is that the fridge has got to temperature and it said, right, I've done what I need to do, and closes down, you know, and that's what these fridges do. They cycle through it. So one cycle of a compressor is, right, if you turn it to minus 18, it's got to get to minus 18.
Yeah.
Once it's there, like your fridge in your house, it will shut off.
Okay.
Yeah, so we want to know how much power does it consume to do that first cycle.
Okay.
And then what are the temperatures once it's
And
done.
we're going to just set them all down to the maximum once again, so that it is all of them at the maximum temperature, whatever the fridge goes down to, set it to that, see how long it takes to get to the first cycle.
Yes.
And then it'll switch off and then it'll kick in depending on insulation, which is one of our tests coming down the line, right?
Yeah, that's the next part of it.
Yeah.
You know, how long does it then take the fridge to reheat back up for it to say, right, I'm no longer at minus 19 and start again.
Right.
So, yeah, that's another test that we're doing. But
So you'll have to stay tuned for that one, so you're going to have to watch next week for that. But today we're going to run the cycling test and basically switch them on, run it until it cuts out.
Yeah. And then when it cuts out, we're going to measure that, where it's at, how much power has it consumed, the ampere hour consumption at that point, and what temperature has it got to.
And again, we're going to be using the Engel, so each of them are going to be measured with an exterior, not measuring what the fridge says, measuring what the external
we want to see what they're actually
fridge.
doing.
Okay, fantastic. Right, so let's run the test.
Right.
Good. Fantastic. So that was quick editing, done. Tests are done. We didn't have to show you all the tests once again. We have documented it. It is there. If you wanted to have a look at it, it's boring. Some of them are going for 4 hours. Some of them are cycling at an hour. So if you want to watch all that footage, by all means, it's there. You can watch it. But we're not going to bore you with that right now. Let's get straight into the results.
Okay. So the first one was the SnoMaster Auto, which is keeping them in order the way that we've been doing it.
Yeah.
It took 1 hour and 17 minutes to cycle.
Yeah.
It drew 6.7 ampere hours.
Okay.
Yeah, it consumed that much power, and the fridge temperature inside was minus 20.4.
Minus 20.4.
Yeah.
Now, in the last episode, we did mention that we realized that the SnoMaster is actually 2 fridges in one.
Yes.
And once we'd only realized this after we'd run that test, so we then found out that we can run it in a separate, so it's a 60-watt fridge and pretty much a 40-watt fridge, and we ran it at the low setting on this fridge as well.
Yeah.
And how were the results on that one?
Well, again, that one then took 2 hours 32 minutes to cycle.
Okay.
It drew 6.9 ampere hours.
All right, but why would it draw more amp hour then?
Well, because it's run longer.
Of course, yes. So the first cycle reached it
in 1.5 hours.
In 1.5 hours.
1 hour 20 minutes. 1 hour 17 is exactly what it did.
So 1 hour 17 minutes, and then it took 2.5 hours to reach that cycle because it was at the low setting. So because it's on for so much longer, it would draw more power. And then temperature-wise?
Well, it was minus 22.9.
So it actually got down lower than on the high setting.
Yeah.
But that's purely probably because it's been running so long, so the elements have actually started to freeze.
Yeah, it might be just, that's probably what it is,
Yeah.
you know, it's just allowed the whole air inside to get that much colder and stuff as well.
Yeah.
You know, it's a big area, it's 40 litres, so, you know, it's what it is, it's how this fridge cycles. We're not changing that, we're just measuring what they're doing. But it decided that, for the first hour it would decide to draw that much power.
Okay.
Then we did the ARB.
Yeah.
Now, the ARB took 2 hours and 8 minutes to cycle.
Okay.
And it drew 8.1 ampere hours.
Yeah.
And it got to minus 20.7.
Okay. All right, let's go through the rest of the results and then we can do a sum up what that all means then.
So the Engel here, it took 3 hours and 55 minutes.
It was the longest 4 hours of my life because I got to watch these.
It drew 9.6 ampere hours.
Well, there we go. This one's actually just kicked in. We're busy running another test and this one was off. So if you hear the sound, the compressor's just kicked in. It's been cycling. It's another test we're running right now.
And this one got then, so it was 9.6 ampere hours current consumption and minus 21.9 inside on the fridge temperature.
4 hours to get to the same temperature.
Hours,
Okay.
Yeah. And then
lastly,
Mr. Waeco. Wow. Well, this one took 4 hours and we got to 4 hours and 38 minutes. We'd blown all the other ones out of the water.
I think it was 10:30 at night or something like that. I needed to go home.
Yeah, it hadn't cycled.
Yeah.
It had drawn 11.7 ampere hours, and we just thought it was a good time to stop.
Yeah.
But it was at minus 23 inside the fridge at that stage.
Which is odd because it was at minus 23 for almost 50 minutes to an hour, and I was expecting it to cycle because this fridge sets at minus 22.
Yeah.
Right, so the actual temperature, minus 22, it had got to minus 21 on the fridge. The actual temperature was minus 23, and it just couldn't get to, in 1 hour, it couldn't get that extra degree to cycle. And look, right now, it's an infinity test.
We're looking at the power consumption and seeing what they are, and I think we got to a point with this one where it had gone well over 11. It was nearly 12 ampere hours.
Yeah.
And we thought, well, let's stop it.
It's already more than everybody else.
So that was that dealt with.
All right. So Gareth, what does it mean? Somebody's watching the show now. We've done the first test that was power over 2 hours, consumption over 2 hours, and cooling over 2 hours. Now we've done the cycling bit. Now, how does cycling come into a decision when you're purchasing a fridge? What does it mean to me having a fridge in my vehicle? As far as what would be best for me to use there?
Well, everything that we're doing in these tests really is trying to work out which fridges consume the most power.
Yes.
I mean, we have the finite problem that we have with any vehicle going overland is how much power we have on board.
Of course.
We supplement that with solar and bits and pieces, different types of batteries, but at the end of the day, we still have the bucket full of water, which has however many ampere hours in it that we can use.
Correct.
And what we're trying to do is work out which fridge works the best way as a fridge, but draws the less power, or the compromise that you're willing to take within that.
Yeah. So cooling versus power,
and everything else. And again, these are the fridges that everyone seems to use. So we're trying to find out what they do draw. I mean, it's very interesting to see the SnoMaster power consumption. It uses the same power whether it's in high or low.
Yes.
But it just takes twice as long.
Yeah. So it cycled virtually an hour apart. Cycled a lot quicker, but got there.
Yes, but then it was double the time in low.
Yes.
Yeah, but drew the same amount of power, basically within a couple of 0.2 ampere hours.
So as far as a fridge, then right now, again, it seems like we're leaning towards the SnoMaster once again on this test because it cycled within 2.5 hours. It got to minus 22. Whereas the ARB cycled in 25 minutes less than that, but hadn't got to the cooling power and used more power to get to that cycle.
Yeah.
So if you take the two fridges over here, the two clear leaders, I mean, these going 4 hours plus to cycle. I mean, that it's just using a lot of power.
Yeah.
And bearing in mind, we've got nothing inside these fridges, guys.
These are static tests, aren't they? Yeah.
If we had put ambient temperature or room temperature water into these, it would have taken 8 hours, 10 hours. I mean, we could possibly do a test like it, but it would take forever to cycle.
We're also running them at their deepest thing, so we're really running them as if they're freezers, with nothing in there. We're trying to see what the fridges themselves do, what power they do with what's going on.
Yeah.
The one of the tests that we then came up with after looking at all of this was, well, let's fill the fridge and see what it draws.
Over 24 hours,
and see where that is. But, that's another part of what we're doing. But, it's very clear that the Engel seems to be the lowest power draw on a constant state. But it is a constant state, whereas the SnoMaster will draw a lot of power and then shut off. A lot of power and then shut off. A lot of power and shut off. So if you
which is where our 12-hour test, which we're going to be discussing straight after this,
starts to have a look at it over. Let's have a look at it over a longer period.
Correct.
And let's have a look at it as a fridge as well. So this, for example, this would have cut out, I mean, this one 1 hour and 17 minutes, and this is 4 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, this could run twice in that time.
Yes.
You know, and we want to see that where the thing is actually going.
Because what's important is every time we're going to open this fridge and close it, it's going to drop, or the temperature is going to go up, which means it's going to run, but it's going to cool a lot quicker and then cycle and then switch off.
That's the plan.
Whereas if I had opened up the Engel, open it up, it would probably take 3 times as long before. Yes, it'll still be running.
And like we said, the first test that we did was quite interesting in the fact that they came out and said, right, this one draws the most power.
Yeah.
But actually, what we've now found is if we actually wait until it cycles, this one's drawing the least power.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a weird one, you know. How do we actually now correlate all of this into what's really going on? And so that's our final test. The final test is...
everybody's going to have to wait and see. Well, we're still waiting to see because this one's busy running the 24-hour test right now.
We don't know what they're going to be.
Exactly.
You know? So it is very interesting to see how it is. We're trying to find the different ways. And as we've gone through the tests, we've found that we need to do more tests to try and understand how they work in a more real-life situation.
Yes. All right, so there you have it. On the cycling test, you've got the 2 of the fridges that cycled the quickest. So being on the low temperature, this was 2.5 hours, this was 2 hours and 10 minutes, there or thereabouts. But the power consumption on the ARB was far higher than the SnoMaster. So in this test, although we can't tick winners and losers right now, at this point in time, as far as the cycling test is concerned, the least power at pretty much the same time with a colder temperature inside. SnoMaster has to be your clear leader in this particular test.
Yes.
Not in the overall picture yet because we haven't completed that.
Correct. Yeah.
Good. All right. So that's that one done.